The station world of Keth Prime floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Ships came and went from its many ports. Beings from 100 different worlds walked its halls. But today, everyone who mattered had gathered in the grand auction hall. Princess Sithara Valcorin sat in her private viewing box high above the auction floor. Her skin was pale blue, almost silver in certain lights. Her eyes were large and dark, like pools of ink. Tiny crystals grew naturally along her cheekbones and down her neck, marking her as true Valari royalty. She was bored. The tribute auction happened every cycle. Conquered species sent their best warriors to serve the Valari nobility as bodyguards. It was supposed to be an honor. Sithara knew it was really just another way for the Empire to remind everyone who held the power. Another Keith Rani, her advisor Morath said, gesturing toward the auction floor. Strong, good reflexes would serve you well. Sithara watched the massive reptilian creature below. It stood 3 meters tall. Muscles rippled under green scales. It roared for the crowd, showing teeth the size of daggers. I have had Keith Rani guards before, Sithara said. They died. Everything dies around you, princess, Morath replied carefully. This was true. Sithara was third in line for the throne. This made her a target. Her last 3 bodyguards had been killed within a month of entering her service. Poison, assassins, a bomb hidden in a gift. Her siblings were not patient people. The auction continued. Warriors from a dozen species crossed the stage. Some were giants. Some were covered in armor that grew from their own bodies. Some had claws that could cut through starship hulls. Sithara felt nothing. She had seen it all before. Then the announcer called out something new. From the recently contacted world called Earth, the humans present their tribute candidate. Whispers filled the hall. The humans were new to the galaxy. Their world had only been discovered 2 cycles ago, a small planet orbiting an ordinary star, nobody important, nobody powerful. The Empire had allowed them to participate in the auction as a gesture of diplomatic kindness. Everyone expected a joke. A single figure walked onto the stage. Sithara leaned forward in her seat. The human was smaller than she expected. He stood perhaps 2 meters tall, lean and compact. He had dark hair cut short and skin the color of brown earth. He wore simple gray clothes with no decoration, no armor, no visible weapons. He did not roar for the crowd. He did not flex or pose or try to look threatening. He simply stood there, hands clasped behind his back, and waited. The crowd began to laugh. "Is this a joke?" someone shouted. "Send it back to its little planet." The human did not react. His face showed nothing. His body remained perfectly still. Sithara had seen statues that moved more than this creature. But something about him made her pause. She studied him more carefully. His eyes moved slowly across the crowd, not nervous, not afraid. He was watching, calculating. She recognized that look. She had seen it in the eyes of predators before they struck. "What is his name?" she asked Morath. Her advisor checked his datapad. Marcus Cole, 34 cycles old by their count. The human file says he served in something called the Special Operations Division. There is no other information. No other information. The humans are protective of their military records. Sithara smiled, the first genuine smile she had felt all day. "I will take him," she said. Morath stared at her. "Princess, surely you cannot be serious. He is small, weak. He has no claws, no armor, no apparent modifications. The Keith Rani alone would be 10 times more effective." "I am bored, Morath, and I am curious." Sithara stood up. "Make the purchase." The bidding took only moments. Nobody else wanted the human. Sithara acquired him for the minimum price, less than what she would pay for a good meal. The crowd laughed again when her banner appeared over his image. The princess descended to the collection area where new bodyguards were transferred to their owners. Marcus Cole stood waiting for her. Up close, he was even less impressive. She could see small scars on his hands and face, old injuries. He looked tired, like a man who had not slept well in many years. Her retinue surrounded her. 6 guards from other species, all larger and more dangerous looking than this human. They eyed the new arrival with amusement. "So," Sithara said, "you are my new bodyguard." "Yes, Princess." His voice was quiet, calm. "Do you know what happened to my last 3 guards?" "They died." "They died quickly, painfully. There are many in this empire who wish me harm." She stepped closer to him. "You won't last a cycle, perhaps not even a month." Marcus Cole looked at her. For the first time she saw something move in his eyes, something old, something patient. It was there for just a moment, then gone. "I understand, Princess," he said. "Do you? I am not sure you do." She gestured at herself. "I am the 3rd child of the Emperor. My siblings want the throne, and they will kill anyone who might help me survive to challenge them. You are walking into a war you cannot win." "I have walked into many wars," Marcus said. "I am still here." Something about the way he said it made her pause. There was no pride in his voice, no threat, just a simple statement of fact. The way someone might say that the sky was dark or that water was wet. Her guards laughed. One of them, a massive 4-armed Droxy, slapped Marcus on the shoulder hard enough to stagger a normal being. Marcus did not move, did not even shift his weight. "Little human thinks he is tough," the Droxy said. Marcus looked up at the creature that towered over him. "I did not say I was tough," he replied. "I said I was still here." Sithara watched this exchange with growing interest. There was something wrong about this human, not wrong in a bad way, wrong in a way she could not explain. He seemed too still, too calm, like the surface of water before something rose from the depths. "Come," she said. "We return to the palace. Try not to die before we arrive. I would hate to waste even the small amount I paid for you." She turned and walked away. Her guards followed. After a moment, so did Marcus Cole. He fell into step 3 paces behind her, exactly where a bodyguard should be. She did not look back, but somehow she could feel his presence there. Quiet, watchful, patient. Like death itself, waiting for its moment. The diplomatic dinner was held in the crystal hall of the imperial palace. Light from 1,000 chandeliers sparkled off walls made of living gemstone. The most powerful beings in the galaxy sat at tables that stretched the length of the room. Food from 100 worlds filled golden plates. Wine older than some civilizations flowed freely. Sithara sat at her assigned table, far from the Emperor's seat of honor. This was deliberate. Her siblings wanted to remind her of her place. She smiled and pretended not to notice. Marcus stood behind her chair, still and silent as always. 2 weeks had passed since the auction. He had not spoken much in that time. He followed her everywhere, watched everything, and said almost nothing. The other guards had stopped trying to talk to him. "Your human is strange," her advisor Morath whispered. "He makes the others nervous." "Good," Sithara said. "Perhaps fear will keep them alert." She did not mention that the human made her nervous too. There was something about the way he moved. Or rather, the way he did not move. He could stand for hours without shifting his weight. His breathing was so quiet she sometimes wondered if he was breathing at all. The dinner continued. Speeches were made. Deals were whispered. Politics flowed as freely as the wine. Then the lights went out. Sithara felt Marcus move before she even understood what was happening. His hand pressed against her shoulder, pushing her down below the table. She heard screaming, the crash of breaking glass, the hum of energy weapons charging. The emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in red. 3 figures stood in the center of the hall. They wore black armor that seemed to drink the light. In their hands, they held curved blades that glowed with poisoned edges. Keithrani blade dancers, the most expensive assassins in the Empire. They moved toward Sithara's table. Her other guards rushed forward to meet them, the Droxy with 4 arms, a Silexian covered in natural armor, a Veth warrior with claws like swords. They were strong, they were fast, they were trained. They died in seconds. The blade dancers cut through them like wind through leaves. One guard fell with his throat opened. Another collapsed with a blade buried in his heart. The third managed to block one strike before 2 more found gaps in his armor. Sithara watched her protection die and knew she would be next. Then Marcus stepped forward. He did not run. He did not shout or roar or make any threat. He simply walked toward the assassins like a man walking to dinner. The first blade dancer struck at him. The blade moved faster than Sithara could follow. It hit nothing but air. Marcus had moved, not dramatically, not with any visible effort. He had simply not been where the blade was. His hand came up, touched the assassin's arm at the elbow, and twisted. The blade dancer's arm broke. The sound was loud in the sudden silence. Before the assassin could scream, Marcus's other hand struck his throat. The scream never came. The blade dancer fell and did not move again. 2 seconds had passed. The other assassins attacked together. Blades came from both sides. Any normal being would have been cut in half. Marcus dropped to one knee. Both blades passed over his head. His hands shot out, grabbing both assassins by their ankles. He pulled. They fell. What happened next was too fast to follow. Sithara saw movement, heard impacts, saw bodies twist in ways bodies should not twist. Then it was over. 3 Keithrani blade dancers lay dead on the floor. 3 of the most dangerous killers in the galaxy. The finest assassins money could buy. Marcus Cole stood among them, breathing normally. There was no blood on him, no marks. He looked exactly as he had looked before the attack. He looked down at the bodies, then back at Sithara. "You should leave, Princess," he said. "More may come." Later, in the safety of her private chambers, Sithara demanded answers. "What are you?" she asked. "What did I buy at that auction?" Marcus sat across from her. For once, he seemed willing to talk. "I am human," he said simply. That was not normal. Those were blade dancers. They trained from childhood. They have genetic modifications, combat drugs, neural enhancers. You killed them like they were nothing. They were not nothing. They were very dangerous. Marcus paused, but they had never fought a human before. "Explain." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "My species evolved on a world that tried very hard to kill us. Everything on our planet was dangerous. Predators, weather, disease, other humans." He looked at his hands. "We survived because we learned to hunt, not like other predators. We did not have claws or fangs or venom, so we hunted differently." "How?" "We followed our prey until it died from exhaustion. We could run for days without stopping. Our bodies could regulate temperature, heal from injuries, keep going when any other creature would collapse. We were not the fastest or the strongest, but we never stopped, never gave up. Our prey would run and we would follow. Eventually, the prey would be too tired to run anymore." Sithara felt a chill run through her. Persistence predators. "Yes, but that was only the beginning." Marcus met her eyes. "Over thousands of years, we became something more. We studied death. We made it into science. We created weapons that could destroy entire worlds. We fought wars so terrible that we had to make rules to limit our own destruction. Every generation, we became better at killing." "Better at killing," she repeated. "Your empire conquers through strength. You find species stronger than others and use them as weapons." Marcus shook his head slowly. "Humanity conquered itself through the perfection of death. I am what remains when you strip everything else away. No anger, no fear, no hesitation, just the knowledge of how to end things and the will to do it." Sithara understood then. Earth had not sent a warrior to the auction. They had sent a message. "The Empire has conquered 1,000 species," she said slowly. Are you saying that humanity could fight us?" Marcus did not answer for a long moment. When he did, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I am saying, Princess, that if the Empire ever gave humanity a reason to fight, there would be no empire left to enjoy the victory." He stood up. "You should sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult." He walked to the door and took his position outside. Cythera sat alone in the darkness, thinking about what she had bought at the auction. Not a bodyguard, not a warrior. She had purchased a glimpse into what humanity truly was, and it terrified her more than any assassin ever could. Word spread through the imperial court like fire through dry grass. The human had killed 3 Keithrani blade dancers, alone, in seconds. At first, nobody believed it. The story was too impossible. Blade dancers were legends. They trained for decades. They had killed kings and generals and warlords. The idea that a small, unmodified human had destroyed 3 of them seemed like a bad joke. Then the bodies were examined. Then the security recordings were studied. Then people began to believe. And then the attempts on Cythera's life increased. In the first month after the dinner, there were 7 assassination attempts. A poison in her food that Marcus somehow detected before she took a bite. A sniper on a distant rooftop that Marcus spotted and reported to security before the shot was fired. 2 more blade dancers who died even faster than the first 3. Then there was the bomber. A servant had hidden explosives inside his own body. He walked into Cythera's chambers during a morning meeting, smiled, and tried to trigger the device. Marcus crossed the room in less than a heartbeat. His hand closed around the servant's wrist. There was a quiet snap. The detonator fell from dead fingers. The man himself died a moment later, though Cythera never saw exactly how. "How did you know?" she asked afterward. "He looked normal, he acted normal." "His pulse was too fast," Marcus said. "His breathing was wrong. He smelled of fear and something chemical." He paused. "And he looked at me too long when he entered. People who plan to die in an explosion do not care about bodyguards. He should not have been afraid of me unless he knew what I could do." The attempts continued. Energy weapons, poison gas, a creature bred specifically to kill Valari royalty. Each time Marcus stopped them. Each time the attacker died. After the 3rd month, the attack slowed. Not because Cythera's enemies had given up, but because they were running out of assassins willing to try. Cythera began to watch her bodyguard more carefully. She noticed things she had missed before. The way other species moved away from him in crowds, not obviously, not deliberately. They simply drifted aside like water flowing around a stone. They did not even seem aware they were doing it. She noticed how predators reacted to him. A visiting Keithrani warrior, 8 feet of muscle and claws, flinched when Marcus walked past. A Silexian hunting beast, trained to fear nothing, whimpered and pressed against its handler when Marcus looked at it. "Why do they do that?" she asked Morith one day. "Why do they fear him? He has done nothing to threaten them." Her advisor had been studying humans since Marcus arrived. He had become something of an expert on the species. "There is a concept in human psychology," Morith explained. "They call it the uncanny valley. It describes the feeling humans get when something looks almost human but is slightly wrong. A face that is too symmetrical. A smile that does not reach the eyes. It triggers deep instinctive fear in them." "I do not understand." "I believe," Morith said slowly, "that other species experience something similar around your human. Something in their deep instincts recognizes him as a predator. Not a predator like a Keithrani or a Veth. Something older, something that should not exist." He paused. "They look at him and something inside them says, 'This creature can kill me and there is nothing I can do to stop it.'" Cythera thought about this. She had felt it herself. That strange unease when Marcus stood too close. That sense of something dangerous lurking behind his quiet eyes. She found him on her balcony that night, staring out at the lights of the palace city. "Do you ever sleep?" she asked. 4 hours each night, sometimes less. How is that possible? Training, my body learned to rest more efficiently. He did not turn to face her. Humans can survive on very little sleep when necessary. Our ancestors often had to. Predators hunted at night. Enemies attacked before dawn. We adapted. Sithara stood beside him. Below, millions of beings went about their lives, unaware that a princess and a monster watched from above. How many ways do you know to kill someone? She asked. It was a strange question. She did not know why she asked it. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I stopped counting a long time ago, he said finally. Bare hands, weapons, poisons, pressure points, environmental factors. The human body is fragile. There are many ways to make it stop working. And the bodies of other species. Different. But not that different. Life always has weaknesses. She looked at him. In the dim light, he looked almost normal, almost like the simple human warrior the auction had promised, but she knew better now. What are you truly? She asked. Not your species, you the man called Marcus Cole. He turned to face her. His eyes were dark and deep, like wells with no bottom. I am what happens when a human stops pretending, he said. We wear masks, princess, all of us. We pretend to be civilized. We pretend to be gentle. We hide what we really are behind smiles and manners and laws. He paused. I stopped pretending a long time ago. I looked at what I truly was and I accepted it. And what are you truly? Marcus smiled. It was the first time she had seen him smile. It did not make him look friendly. It made him look like something wearing a human face. I am the thing that other things fear, he said. I am the predator that hunts predators. I am what your empire forgot existed. His smile faded. I am what humans become when you take away all their reasons to be kind. Sithara should have been frightened. Part of her was, but another part felt something unexpected. Safe. For the first time since her mother died, since her siblings began their war for the throne, since she learned that everyone around her wanted her dead, she felt safe. Because she stood next to something that even death seemed afraid of. My siblings will never stop trying to kill me, she said quietly. I know. They will keep sending assassins. Eventually, they will find a way. Perhaps, Marcus looked back out at the city, or perhaps they will realize that the cost of killing you is higher than the cost of letting you live. That is how deterrence works. You do not need to kill everyone. You only need to make them believe that trying is not worth the price. And what is the price? He did not answer. He did not need to. The price was Marcus Cole. The price was facing a human who had forgotten how to be afraid, how to hesitate, how to stop. The price was meeting death itself in battle and learning, too late, that death always won. The emperor fell ill in the 6th month. No one knew exactly what had caused it. The royal physicians spoke of a rare disease. The court whispered of poison. Sithara suspected her siblings, but she could prove nothing. What mattered was that the emperor could no longer rule. He lay in his chambers, too weak to speak, too frail to lift his hand. The empire needed a successor, and the war for the throne, which had been fought in shadows for years, finally came into the light. Prince Kader, the eldest, controlled the military. Princess Valith, the second child, held the loyalty of the noble houses. They formed an alliance against each other, broke it, formed new alliances, broke those too. Advisors were murdered. Generals were bribed. Entire fleets changed sides overnight. Through it all, Sithara watched and waited. She was third in line, not important enough to lead, but too important to ignore. Both siblings saw her as a piece to be used. Neither saw her as a threat. This was their mistake. They are planning something, Morath told her one evening. My sources say that Kader and Valith have reached a temporary agreement. They will deal with you first, then fight each other. Deal with me how? Your death will be blamed on the humans. They will say that your bodyguard turned on you, that Earth sent an assassin disguised as a tribute. It gives them an excuse to attack humanity and removes you from the succession. Moreth looked pale. It is clever. They kill two threats with one strike. Sithara felt cold. When? Tonight, perhaps sooner, you should flee. Where would I go? Kader controls the ships. Valith controls the ports. I would be caught before I left the palace. Marcus spoke from his place by the door. Then we do not run. Moreth stared at him. You cannot be serious. They will send the Valari elite guard, 100 of the finest warriors in the Empire. You are good, human, perhaps even great, but not even you can face those odds. Marcus looked at Sithara. His eyes were calm, peaceful almost. Do you trust me, princess? It was a strange question. Trust was rare in the imperial court. Trust got people killed. But Sithara looked at this human who had protected her for 6 months, who had killed for her without hesitation, who had never lied to her or deceived her. Yes, she said, I trust you. Then stay close to me tonight. Whatever happens, stay behind me and do not run. The attack came an hour later. Sithara was in the lower levels of the palace, heading toward a secure room that Moreth had prepared. The corridors were empty, too empty. The servants had been cleared away. The regular guards were gone. Then the Valari elite guard appeared. They came from every direction, through doors, downstairs, out of shadows. 100 warriors in golden armor carrying weapons that could cut through starship hulls. The finest soldiers of a species that had conquered galaxies. They surrounded Sithara completely. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Captain Voreth, commander of the elite guard, stepped forward. His face was hard beneath his helm. Princess Sithara, he said formally, you are charged with treason against the throne. Surrender now and your death will be quick. Sithara felt fear grip her heart. This was it. This was how she died, surrounded by enemies in the cold depths of the palace. Then Marcus stepped forward. He did not raise his voice. He did not make threats. He simply moved to stand between Sithara and the captain, his hands empty at his sides. The princess is under my protection, he said quietly. Captain Voreth laughed. The other guards laughed with him. 1 human against 100 elite guard. You have courage, creature. I will grant you that, but courage will not save you. He raised his weapon. Kill them both. The guard attacked. What happened next was something that Sithara would remember for the rest of her life. Something that she would never be able to fully explain. Something that would become legend throughout the galaxy. Marcus moved. That was the only word for it. He did not fight. Fighting implied 2 sides exchanging blows. This was not that. This was a force of nature passing through an obstacle. This was water flowing downhill. This was gravity pulling objects toward the ground. It was inevitable. The first elite guard died before his blade finished its swing. Marcus was simply inside his reach, his hand pressed against the warrior's throat. The guard fell. Marcus was already moving to the next. He took their weapons and used them. A blade cut 3 enemies in a single arc. A dropped rifle fired twice, striking 2 guards across the corridor. An armored body became a shield against energy blasts. Marcus did not waste a single movement. Every step took him past a guard who would never rise again. Every touch was fatal. Every second brought more death. Sithara watched, frozen, as her bodyguard moved through the elite guard like a ghost through a graveyard. The Valari were not weak. They were not untrained. They struck at him with weapons and fists and claws. Some of their blows even landed. Sithara saw blood on Marcus's face, on his arms, but he did not slow down, did not hesitate, did not stop. The guards began to panic. These were warriors who had never known fear. They had conquered planets. They had killed thousands. But now they faced something they could not understand. A creature that would not die, that would not stop, That kept coming and coming and coming. 3 guards broke and ran. The rest died where they stood. When it ended, 97 bodies lay on the corridor floor. Marcus stood among them, breathing hard. Blood dripped from wounds on his face and arms. For the first time since Cythera had known him, he looked tired. He turned to face her. His eyes were the same as always, calm, patient, empty of anything she could recognize as human emotion. "It is done," he said. Cythera could not speak. She stared at the destruction around her, at the bodies of warriors who had terrified the galaxy, at the blood that covered the floor like a dark mirror. "Why," she finally whispered, "why protect me? I bought you like property, like an animal." Marcus walked toward her. He moved slowly now. Some of those wounds were serious. He would need medical attention soon. He stopped an arm's length away. "You were the only one in this entire empire who looked at a human and saw something worth saving," he said. "Even if it was just curiosity, even if you expected nothing from me but death." He paused. "That is more kindness than anyone else in this galaxy has shown my species." "So you killed 100 guards for kindness?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "I killed 100 guards because that is what I am. That is what humanity made me. But I chose to protect you because of who you could be." He reached out and gently lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. "The empire is broken, princess. Your father is dying. Your siblings will destroy everything in their war for power. Someone needs to build something better. And you think that someone is me. I think you are the only one willing to try." In the distance, alarms began to sound. More guards would come soon, but they would find no one to arrest. They would find only bodies and blood and the legend of a human who had killed 100 warriors and walked away. Cythera looked at Marcus Cole, at this monster, at this miracle, at this thing that should not exist. "Then help me," she said. "Help me build something better." Marcus smiled. It was a small smile, a tired smile. "Yes, princess," he said, "I will." The coronation of Empress Cythera took place on a bright morning in the Crystal Hall. Much had changed since the night of blood in the lower corridors. Prince Cater had fled to the outer territories after his plot was exposed. His supporters abandoned him one by one as news spread of what had happened to the elite guard. Princess Valith, more practical than her brother, had sued for peace before the sun rose. The emperor had died 3 days after the failed assassination. Some said it was the illness. Others whispered that the stress of learning what his children had done had finally broken his heart. Whatever the cause, his death left only one viable heir. Cythera had not wanted the throne, but she had learned something in her months with Marcus. Sometimes the best way to survive was to stop running and face the thing you feared. So she faced the throne, and the throne became hers. Now she sat upon the crystal seat of her ancestors, wearing the crown of living gems that had adorned 100 emperors before her. Thousands of beings filled the hall. Ambassadors from across the galaxy had come to witness the coronation. Some came out of respect, most came out of fear. They had all heard the story. A human bodyguard who had killed 100 elite guards, a creature from a nothing planet who had destroyed the finest warriors in the empire. Some versions of the story said he had killed 200. Some said 300. Some said he had not been wounded at all, that he was immortal, that he was a demon made flesh. Cythera had not corrected these stories. Fear was a useful tool. Marcus stood behind her throne in the traditional position of the royal bodyguard. He had healed from his wounds. New scars joined the old ones on his hands and face. He wore the same simple clothes he always wore. No armor, no weapons. He needed neither. The beings in the hall gave him constant glances. Some stared openly. All kept their distance. Even the most powerful warlords, the most dangerous assassins, the most arrogant princes, none of them would come within 10 meters of the human. They called him many names now, The Reaper, the end, death itself. Marcus ignored all of it. He simply stood and watched as he always had, patient, calm, waiting. The coronation ceremony ended. The traditional words were spoken. The ancient rituals were performed. And then Sithara was Empress of the Valari. There was no celebration. The empire was fractured. Cater's rebellion had not yet ended. Valith plotted in her quarters, waiting for her chance. 1,000 problems demanded attention. But there was time. For the first time in years, Sithara had time. That evening, the human ambassador requested an audience. Ambassador Chen was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had come to the coronation as a representative of Earth, but Sithara suspected she was much more than a simple diplomat. There was something about her that reminded Sithara of Marcus. "Congratulations, Empress," Ambassador Chen said. "Your ascension is a great achievement." "My ascension was made possible by one of your people," Sithara replied. "I assume that was not an accident." The ambassador smiled. It was a small smile, polite and empty of any real warmth. "Earth does not engage in accidents," she said. "When we learned of the tribute auction, we saw an opportunity. The Valari Empire is powerful, but it is also arrogant. It has conquered 1,000 species through strength alone. We thought it might benefit from a lesson. A lesson about humanity. A lesson about what happens when you underestimate us." Ambassador Chen glanced at Marcus, who stood motionless by the door. "We did not send our strongest soldier to that auction, Empress. We did not send our best fighter or our greatest warrior." Sithara felt a chill run down her spine. "Then what did you send?" "We sent a reminder." The ambassador turned back to face her. "Humanity has existed for 300,000 years. For most of that time, we have been at war with ourselves. We have created weapons that could destroy our entire world. We have fought conflicts that killed hundreds of millions. We have looked into the darkest parts of our own nature and found things that frightened even us. And Marcus is what remains when a human embraces that nature. He is not special. He is not unique. There are thousands like him on Earth, hundreds of thousands perhaps. We train them not because we want to conquer, but because we remember what we are capable of." She paused. "We sent him to show you what humanity looks like when it stops pretending to be civilized." Sithara thought about this. She thought about the night in the corridor, the bodies on the floor, the calm in Marcus's eyes as he walked through an army. "Why," she asked finally, "why show us this? Why send a message through blood?" Ambassador Chen walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the palace city. Millions of beings lived their lives below, unaware of the conversation happening above them. "Because we do not want war," she said quietly. "Humanity has seen what war truly means. We have looked into that abyss and found nothing worth having. Every generation, we become better at destruction. Every generation, the potential cost of conflict grows higher." "So you threaten us to ensure peace?" "No, we demonstrate what we are so that no one is foolish enough to test us." The ambassador turned to face Sithara. "The Valari Empire could destroy Earth. You have the ships, you have the weapons, you have the numbers, but we would not go quietly. And by the time the war ended, there would be nothing left of your empire but ashes and memories. Mutually assured destruction. We invented the concept." Ambassador Chen smiled grimly. "It kept us from destroying ourselves for 2 centuries. We hoped it might work with the galaxy as well." Sithara looked at Marcus. He had not moved during the entire conversation. He simply stood there, still as stone, listening. "And him," she asked, "what happens to Marcus now?" "That depends on you, Empress. He was given to you as a gift. He is yours to do with as you wish." The ambassador paused. "But if you are wise, you will keep him close, not just for protection, but as a reminder." "A reminder of what?" "A reminder that the deadliest species in existence is the one that chooses not to kill." Ambassador Chen walked toward the door. When humanity finally does decide to fight, nothing survives. Remember that, Empress, and help your people remember it too." She left without waiting for a response. Sithara sat alone, with Marcus in the fading light. "Is it true?" she asked. "Everything she said?" Marcus walked to stand beside her. He looked out the window at the city below. "Humans tell stories about monsters," he said. "Creatures in the darkness, things that hunt in the night. For most species, these stories are fears of the unknown." He paused. "For humans, they are memories. Memories of what we once were, what we could become again." "And you, what are you?" Marcus turned to face her. His eyes were calm, patient, ancient. "I am what humanity tries not to be," he said. "I am the darkness we keep locked away. I am the monster in our own stories." He reached out and took her hand gently. "But I am also the guardian at the gate, the thing that stands between humanity and the abyss. I destroy so that others do not have to." Sithara held his hand. It was warm, human. It was hard to believe that this hand had killed hundreds. "Will you stay with me?" she asked. "Not as a bodyguard, as an advisor, a friend." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "I will stay as long as you need me," he said finally. "As long as you remember what I am and what my presence means." "And what does it mean?" He smiled. It was a real smile this time, small and sad and human. "It means that humanity chooses peace," he said. "Because we know, better than any species in the galaxy, what happens when we choose war." Outside, the sun set over the Empire. A new age was beginning, an age built not on conquest, but on understanding, not on strength, but on the fear of what strength could do. And at the heart of it all stood a human who had become death itself, so that no one else would have to. This was humanity's gift to the galaxy. This was their warning. And this was their promise, that the deadliest predator in existence would choose kindness, not because it was weak, but because it knew exactly how strong it truly was.